Welcome to the Vibrant You Health Show. This is your host, Blake Bars. At Nature's Pantry, our mission is to lead you to vibrant health through the best nutrition, supplementation, and expertise. In the Vibrant You Health Show, we aren't interested in fads or quick fixes, but rather we want to get into the holistic fundamentals to health. We want to answer the questions like, what are the underlying causes of health issues? What are the keys to optimal health? The information provided in this show is intended for your general knowledge only and is not intended to be, nor is it, medical advice or a substitute for medical advice. If you have or suspect you have a specific medical condition or disease, please consult your healthcare provider. If your provider has a strong understanding of nutrition and holistic health, even better. The opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and their guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Nature's Pantry. All right, welcome everyone to the 28th episode of the Vibrant You Health Show. I am so honored and privileged to have my special guest, Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. Thank you so much for joining me, sir.
Blake, it's great to be with you and with all of your viewers today because you guys got fatigue, you got pain, you had COVID, and it's not gone away. We're going to teach you how to take care of all of that today.
Awesome. I'm so excited. So, Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, you are one of the most frequently quoted integrative pain and fibromyalgia medical authorities in the world. And for those of you who don't know, he is the author of many best-selling books, but the one that I'm reading right now is called From Fatigue to Fantastic. Mm-hmm. And also he's written Pain-Free 1, 2, 3, The Complete Guide to Beating Sugar Addiction, Real Cause, Real Cure, The Fatigue and Fibromyalgia Solution, Diabetes is Optional, and you have created an app called Cures A to Z, and I recently downloaded that, and super neat app. I'm excited to get to use that here in the store to help people kind of look for different things, and great to have that resource. So is that just like an encyclopedia of your brain, basically?
Yeah, it's kind of like having my brain in your pocket, but just not as messy. And the most of it's free. There's a $2 upgrade that has some of the newer stuff, but the most of the stuff's in the free app. And it's just, you look up anything from acne to zoster, and it'll tell you, bam, 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 here's what works, here's what to do.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm definitely going to upgrade to the version to have it, because I have all kinds of things coming at me all the time here in our health food store. And so it'd be super. I'm excited for that. Now, you've also are the lead author of 7 studies on the effective treatment of fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, and a study on effective treatment of autism. And as well, you've appeared on many talk shows nationally. I met you at a health conference, Terry Naturally conference in Phoenix, and really enjoyed your presentation in that conference. And that's where I said, hey, would you come on my show sometime? And you're like, sure. And you gave me your email, and then here we are. So doctor, quite an impressive resume. Is it true you were also homeless at one point during medical school?
People ask, what's a nice Jewish doctor like you doing in holistic medicine? And to make it even worse, chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. It's like how to be a leper in the medical community. You do those two. And I got into it the old-fashioned way. I had it. I was in medical school. I was paying my own way through med school because my dad was dead. And so I was working as a nurse in Children's Hospital. I was doing med school, and those two things were the easiest things going on in the chaos of my life. And I got this nasty viral syndrome, what I call drop-dead flu, and it triggered chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. Now, since I was paying my own way, I had to drop out of medical school, and I was homeless, sleeping in parks. It's funny. It's as if God put a holistic homeless medical school sign on my park bench, and naturopaths came by. I never heard of it. I didn't know. If you're going to be a healer as a good Jewish boy, you become a doctor. Yeah. I didn't know there was such a thing as naturopaths, herbalists, energy workers. All these different people taught me bits and pieces of what I needed to know, and sometimes I even had a pizza with them, and I ate. And I was able to use what they taught me to get myself well, go back to medical school, get my honors in medicine. And I spent the last 45 years or so researching about chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, fatigue, pain, and post-viral, which is post-COVID long haulers is chronic fatigue syndrome.
Well, it's pretty timely. You have a specific skill for some of the main issues we're dealing with today. In your book that I'm reading, From Fatigue to Fantastic, you talk about the human energy crisis, and you say how we're kind of been set up for the perfect storm of the human energy crisis. Can you speak to that and why we're looking at that?
Absolutely. You take a look at the American diet, 18% of calories are sugar added into the diet. That's 140 pounds per person per year. About a similar amount of white flour, which is stripped of nutrients. In fact, it's so stripped that the PR departments call it enriched flour. It's as if you had $100 in your pocket. Some guy came and stole all $100, and the policeman said, give them some back. And so I'm going to enrich you. Here's $1. It's like, the stuff is basically half of the vitamins and minerals in our diet are lost in food processing. First, This is the only time in human history people have been obese and malnourished at the same time. Meanwhile, sleep, used to get an average 9 hours sleep a night until light bulbs. Now we're down 30%. The speed of modern life, speeding up, and the stress of modern life. When I was your age, the media mantra was sex sells, which means you wanted to sell beer or cars. You had handsome guys, good-looking women sitting by it. You showed the display, and it would sell. Nowadays, the news media mantra is fear and divisiveness sells. If I can scare you to death and make you hate everybody else, then you will watch 24/7. We will sell advertising, and our owners will give us a raise.
I like the old way better.
Oh, me too. God, good old days. Dang it.
Yeah, and we got a hormone problem too, don't we?
Yep, we have over 85,000 chemicals in the environment, many of them which are blocking our hormone systems. Now, the World Health Organization put out a manuscript of studies this thick on what they call endocrine disruptors. These are chemicals that are messing with our hormone systems. So across the board, we're seeing our hormones going haywire. And just, all these different things are adding up. And all of these things are things that are under our control.
And you also talked about immune changes. How is our immune system changing?
Well, first of all, the lack of sleep causes immune suppression. The nutritional deficiencies cause immune suppression. And then your immune system is dealing with, again, 85,000 chemicals that have never been seen in human history before. They're new on the planet. And the list of issues go on and on. And, I'll tell you right now, COVID was just a shot across the bow. We talk about it being the plague. It's not. The plague killed 1/2 of adults in Europe. Even the Spanish flu killed 3% of the population. This was closer to, less than 1%. What they're going to be looking at are are bugs that are coming in that will make COVID look like nothing. And here's the thing. You look at COVID, if there is a household of 10 people and somebody got COVID, only one other person in the household on average gets the COVID. Only 20% of people who have close contact. Of those, only half have any symptoms at all, or 60%. The other 40% have no symptoms, which means your immunity, it's not the vaccine, whether you're pro or against, your own immunity to COVID is the main thing that determines how you do. And you get sleep, you stay hydrated, and you take a good multivitamin. And in fact, what I would do, there's Clinical Essentials plus ViraPro. That is perfect. To me, that's what I was taking during COVID. And I felt quite safe, even though I was lecturing all over the country.
Right. And those two are a Terry Naturally product that you use in your practice, and we have those two here at the store.
No, I don't take money from any of these companies, including Terry Naturally. So I just we'll talk about stuff that I like. So
that's worked for people.
Yeah.
So the human energy crisis, we're setting ourselves up for it with bad nutrition, bad sleep, hormone problems out the wazoo, and we got also then all these things are causing immune system issues. So how common is severe fatigue?
Well, you'll see 31% of the adult population has fatigue that severely interferes with their life. Almost everybody wishes they had more energy. And you're looking at about anywhere from 2 to 6% of the population with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. Those are the worst forms.
Right.
So this is really common. And 1/3 of the population suffers with chronic pain, and the two are related. It's the low energy in the body that triggers both.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. How does low energy cause pain, and how are they?
Over half of the pain conditions that people feel are from tight muscles that are shortened. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, you would think it would take more energy for a muscle to contract, but it doesn't. It takes more energy for it to relax. Wow. That's why after you have a heavy workout and your muscles are depleted, you don't come home and say, honey, the workout I had, my muscles are all loose and limp. You go, they're all tight.
Right.
Low energy causes muscles to get locked in a shortened position. And after a couple of weeks that way, they hurt.
So what causes the low energy? I mean, we talked about it we talked about all those things. Mm-hmm. Nutrition, sleep, and the chemicals and everything else, hormones.
Yeah, let's talk about a recipe for optimizing energy. Yeah. And our randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study put together with help of the researchers at the NIH published showed that by simply using what you call the SHINE protocol, mm-hmm. and this is an easy way to remember, guys. If you have fatigue or pain, write this down, SHINE, S-H-I-N-E. If you don't have a piece of paper, write it down on your forearm or something. It's just, this will teach you how to get your life back. Yeah. So S is sleep. Mm-hmm. And why don't you take these one at a time? So for those of you out there who have trouble getting a good night's sleep, and again, there's no one size fits everybody. It's like there's no one shoe size fits everybody, and there's no number of hours of sleep that everybody needs. I like my 9 hours a night. That was what was average for most of human history. But see what feels best to you. But if you have trouble falling and staying asleep, there's a couple things. Do you guys have the EP120 sustained release melatonin?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And
is this the one? Actually, I have it right here.
That's the one. That's what I take myself each night. And it's the best melatonin out there. You want the sustained release so it keeps you out. And you take it maybe an hour before you go to bed. There's a terrific ZZZZ, which is a mix of 4 essential oils.
Yeah, I have this one too. I don't have all of them, but I did have a few because I was reading about them in your book.
Mm-hmm. And simply wearing a night mask. If you can keep, because a lot of times you're going to find you sleep, but you don't wake up rested. And if there's even a little bit of light in the room, it keeps your adrenaline nervous system on throughout the night, which not just leaves you waking up unrefreshed, but causes weight gain to boot. So in some of you, you'll find a dark room or a sleep mask can be very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. And sleep is so important. Sleep is when our body repairs itself, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So if you don't sleep, research shows no sleep equals pain. Mm-hmm. And if you have somebody with chronic pain and you don't get them sleeping, that pain is not going away. Also, if you don't get enough sleep, there's an average 6.5 pound weight gain. Not to mention your immune system goes down and brain fog and on and on and on. It's not just about fatigue.
Right. 7 to 9 hours a day is what we typically recommend. Mm-hmm. It sounded like reading in your book, people used to get a lot more sleep because they used to go to bed when the sun went down and not get up till it came up.
Exactly. It was 11 hours. That was the average night's sleep. But there was a tendency for sleep to be biphasic, which meant that people would wake up for an hour or two in the middle of the night for meditation, lovemaking, intimate conversation, and it was a quiet time for people. Prayer, whatever they happen to do. And it was a different time of night. Everyone in the village, so somebody was always kind of awake to sound the alarm if something went down. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of a sense in terms of how our bodies developed.
Interesting. What role does the thyroid play in all of this?
Thyroid is a gas pedal. It's kind of like having a thermostat in your house in the middle of winter and it won't go higher than 40. It's or having a gas pedal that you push all the way down. You can't go over 25 miles an hour when your thyroid's not working. That's what it's like. Tired, achy, weight gain, cold intolerant, hair loss, unexplained infertility or miscarriages, constipation, any two of those. And I'm going to be giving thyroid hormone in my practice. But start by making sure you have enough iodine. And if you take the clinical essentials, that'll pretty much cover you as a multivitamin for the iodine and most of the other things that you need. Again, the clinical essentials and the ViraPro, especially with these days with COVID, but just in general, make an outstanding combination as a multivitamin. 2 of the clinical essentials, 1 ViraPro each day.
So you say that the thyroid is the gas pedal. What does the thyroid do exactly? It produces hormones?
And the thyroid makes the hormones that tell your cells to make energy.
Oh.
It determines how many calories you burn for energy. You're not burning calories, no energy, and you store fat.
So if you have overactive thyroid, you would be hyperactive?
I feel like you had too much coffee. You'll sound like a country western song. Your wife leaves, your dog leaves, your job leaves, all that stuff. It's just your emotional train wreck.
And then if you're underactive, you're sluggish, you're fatigued, you're
tired, achy, weight gain, cold intolerant.
So talk to me about, you talk about the tests for this in your book a little bit. Mm-hmm. You talk, are they reliable?
Yeah, about as reliable as guessing. It's funny, it's most doctors, I lecture to 400 or 500 doctors at a time. And I love asking this question: where does the normal range for the test come from? Because most doctors, they'd be happy if the person stays home. They'll send me the test result. It's in the normal range. They're fine, no problem. And, but when I ask doctors that, it's like seeing 400 pair of eyes, like deer in the headlights going, I don't know. I never thought about that. I guess a panel of expert, wise physicians with silver beards down to their navel get together and go, well, if it's in this range, it's just fine. Ain't no such thing. The lab takes 100 people. They do the test, and the 95 in the middle are defined as normal. It's called 2 standard deviations. Mm-hmm. So the thing is that unless you're in the lowest or highest 2% of the population, you're in the normal range. Right. So an example I gave Dr. Oz, who's a friend of mine, who's really good despite the pharmaceutical industry getting pissed off at him and doing a smear campaign. It was crazy watching what they did. They just lied. And so, I know firsthand because I was there. They just made stuff up. But it's, God bless them, they're idiots. Well, never mind. But anyway, it's as if you had a shoe size. Say you wanted a normal range for shoe sizes. A normal range for shoe sizes based on 95 percentile is a size 5 to 13. Now, can you imagine trying to put my size 12 shoe in a size 6 shoe? My foot. The doctor would say, it's size 6. It's normal. There's nothing wrong with your shoe.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, and treat you like you're crazy.
You're crazy. You're in the normal range. Your shoe's just fine.
Exactly. So you listen to the person, and then the blood test tells you where in the population on average they are. So
you listen to the person?
Oh God, how else are you going to figure out what the hell's going on?
I love it. I love it. So, okay. So now once you're figuring out like, okay, there's a thyroid issue here, then what do you do? What's the treatment? You talked about using hormone.
For that, in my practice, I'm going to use the bioidentical thyroid glandular hormones. Those are by prescription.
So bioidentical, how do you get those? Because I was reading about those in your book.
Prescription.
And then like, how do they make them? Do they just match it to the human body?
No, they mash up animal thyroid glands. And then they standardize them and put them in pills.
Okay.
But
what
again,
else can you do for thyroid?
Start by making sure you have iodine and tyrosine.
Okay.
Those 2 things, but especially the iodine is the main thing.
Yeah.
Selenium, iron deficiencies of those will cause your thyroid to be low. So take a good multivitamin.
Mm-hmm. I heard there was a customer who came in the other day and he said he was taking the Thyroid Care Plus, and it was like a game changer for him. It totally got him fixed him right up. Like said he was like a different person.
Yeah. And the nice thing is you give it a try. You give it 1 box to see what it does for you. But I start people with the multivitamin and the ViroPro, and then kind of move on with the others.
Okay.
Start with the foundations. The clinical essentials is really good.
Your placebo-controlled research showed that even fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, the worst forms of the human energy crisis, show an average 90% improvement with the SHINE protocol that you talked about, which is sleep, hormones, infection, nutrition, exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, we didn't quite get through all of those before. So talk to me a little more about the rest of the SHINE protocol, because we talked about sleep.
Let's hit the high points.
Yeah.
We talked about sleep. We talked about thyroid, adrenal support. About a quarter of the population, the adrenal stress handler glands are just pooped. They've been so stressed out to get exhausted. And the tests are not very useful. The best way to tell if you need adrenal support is, do you get irritable when hungry? If you're not sure, ask people in your family.
Yeah.
If you see that you start getting cross-eyed and people go run and hide in other rooms, you need adrenal fatigue. You're in marriage counseling or divorce lawyer, that's often low blood sugar from adrenal fatigue. A simple thing, cut back sugar. Stevia is fine. Increase your salt and water intake. And then there's a supplement called Adrenaplex, which is outstanding.
Yeah.
It will help your adrenal glands, smooth that right out, way cheaper than a divorce lawyer. It's just, it will bring your energy and peace of mind back again. So the Adrenaplex, if you get that irritability when hungry.
Yes. Okay. Good to know. I actually have, well, I do get a little bit. It's not crazy, but my dad, I think he will definitely want to give this a try, because he always tells my stepmom when he comes home and he's like, oh, she's trying to talk to him, and she's like, oh, actually, why don't you eat first and then we'll talk?
Wise woman, because if somebody's blood sugar is down and you're trying to comfort them, console them, they'll claw your eyes out. Just feed them. Tell her that she gets 2 gold stars from me. Okay?
I will.
Yeah. So the adrenal is good. And then let's talk about nutrition. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll cut the sugar down. Now, again, I have a sweet tooth. My morning cup of coffee, it tastes like ice cream sundae. It tastes the berries. It has cinnamon. It has vanilla. It has chocolate, and not a gram of sugar in the whole thing, because they have all these flavored stevias, and get ones that taste good. About half of you will find the taste of stevia is good, and the other half will hate it. I think it's genetic. It's like whether you can curl your tongue or not. But for those of you who like it, if not, there's a monk fruit. There's all kind of different ways without sugar to sweeten things. There are sugar-free chocolates that are delicious. There are others chocolates out there that taste like garbage. They say, well, we'll give a penny to the baby seals if you eat this kind of stuff. I say, I will send $1 to the baby seals. Get the chocolate that tastes good. Do a taste testing in your store. Okay? Because, the thing is, chocolate is a health food. So I'm going to invite you in Nature's Pantry. Do a taste testing. And the ones that don't taste good, get rid of them. But the thing is, you can go ahead and get your sweet tooth with the stevia. There's Zevia sodas. There's all kinds of ways to do it. Just leave the sugar out of it. Right. And then again, there's another study we recently finished in post-viral fatigue and people with most severe fatigue. We gave HRG80 red ginseng. You pointed to what you had on your desk. Here's what I take each day. If I'm having a really busy day.
Yep.
And again, it's the only ginseng I know that will work this way. It's especially grown to have the active components, because otherwise most ginsengs is just sawdust. There's just nothing in them. In our study, it increased energy. 60% of people felt dramatically better and significantly better. And in that group, the average increase in energy, stamina, things like that, 70% average increase. And picture having 70% more energy. And then you can take something called Adapter with it. So get the clinical essentials, ViroPro. For the red ginseng, get the chewable tablets. Yeah. And our study One, they taste great. My inner child goes, gimme, I want, and one chewable was as effective as 2 capsules.
Wow.
And so you cut the cost, it's easy, it tastes good. And then something called Adaptra.
Mm-hmm.
A mixture of ashwagandha and rhodiola.
Has adaptogens in it. Yeah, that's a really good one. And that's actually, I think helped a couple people with depression, anxiety too.
Yeah, the multivitamin will do that also. I keep going back to the multivitamin because we want to go ahead and push what's most exotic, and we forget the foundations.
Right. You got to get those key nutrients. So we talked about our sleep, we talked about our hormones, we talked about nutrition. Talk to me a little more about infections in the SHINE protocol.
So again, when the immune system goes down, which it in modern life tends to do, the most common problematic infection, chronic infection we're seeing is candida or fungal overgrowth. There's no test I would give a nickel for that. The way you tell if it's present is nasal congestion. There can be chronic sinusitis, postnasal drip, where you're clearing your throat a lot, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. I find most cases of irritable bowel syndrome, we're looking at, it basically fungal overgrowth. So you want to cut back sugar, because yeast grow by fermenting sugar. Stop feeding the buggers. Number 2, a good probiotic. And then there's a whole host. I'm sure that they have numerous natural antifungals and things that they have available.
So yeast, candida, yeast, that's the same thing, right? And
I'm using them interchangeably, fungal, even though they're not. But for our purposes, we can treat them as one group.
Okay, so kind of you can hit them with the same things to try to deal with them. So infections, so you want to deal with those. If you have underlying infections, you want to figure out what those are and deal with them.
Yeah, and candida is the most common one that drains energy and causes pain as well as causing brain fog. But in terms of an ounce of prevention, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. Get your multivitamin, take 1 ViraPro each morning, get your sleep and stay hydrated. If you find you get every infection, every cold and viral infection that comes by and it takes forever to go away, low adrenal, add the Adrenaplex.
Oh, got it. And if Dr. Teitelbaum, you're such a wealth of information, and I don't want, if you're watching the show and you want to learn more, I want to make sure you know about the resources that are available. So right now you can find his books online, From Fatigue to Fantastic. If you just search Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, and that spelling will be in the post when I post this episode, and just search those books. He's got pain-free 1, 2, 3. There's just so, and his app is a really great resource. Also your website, Dr. Vitality101.com or what else?
Vitality101.com. It's especially for those of you with chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia. There's 4-step program in there. It'll walk you through how to tell if you have it and how to make it go away. And then there's even a free energy analysis program. That's a computerized, you can think of it like a computerized physician, but basically it assesses energy, determines what's causing your energy loss, tailors a protocol to each case, using a mix of natural and prescription therapy, so you can use it with your physician in terms of how to optimize energy production for each individual. And that's free. We used to make that $400 to use it. But we told people with fibromyalgia, if you couldn't afford, you could do it for free. And 80% of people wrote in and said, I'm crippled. I have no money. So my wife and I just made it free to everybody.
Wow.
And we adapted the program. So at energyanalysisprogram.com, you can do the free quiz, take 15 minutes. You can put in your lab tests if you have them. You don't need them. It'll analyze all of that, tell you what's going on and what to do.
Yeah, that's super cool. And it's very comprehensive. I did one of the tests already. I think I did the energy one, and it was like, whoa, that's an awesome resource that you provided. Thank you for doing that. And again, I'll list those websites too in the email and on the post. So I want to talk about long haulers because it's really related to what we're talking about here. And it's something that's very timely and a lot of people are dealing with currently. It's estimated that about 15% of people who get COVID will get persistent post-viral fatigue syndrome. It's also called long hauler syndrome. And sadly, that most doctors are totally unfamiliar with this condition and how to diagnose or treat. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey with this and how you deal with it?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, when I was in med school and I had the drop dead flu. And the reason I didn't land up being chronic and living in parks the rest of my life is because all these holistic practitioners came by and taught me what they needed to know. It's funny, then I got into medical practice and I kind of fleshed out this thing that I had figured out in terms of pain. Because again, pain and fatigue are two sides of the same coin. And it was, I was all proud of myself. And I was working in Edgewater outside of Chesapeake Bay in Annapolis. And one of my farmer patients came in and he tended to be pretty wise. And here I was putting together, I have figured out how to do all this stuff. And he said, "Hey, Doc, have you seen this?" They brought out a book, some shelf behind me, called the Trigger Point Manual by Dr. Janet Travell. She was the White House physician for Presidents Kennedy and Johnson. And it talks about, it was a 2-volume textbook on what causes pain to perpetuate. And it was all in there. Everything that I was all puffed up that I'd figured out, she had figured all that out while I was in diapers. So it was, so all I'm doing is saying what's been taught before, but the stuff, there's no money in it. So the medical profession kind of ignores it.
Right. One thing I really love about your approach, Dr. Teitelbaum, is that you are really balanced. You start with the natural foundation and start like, what's the underlying issue here? But then also you're not afraid of like, okay, this needs a drug, or I've seen this many times and this is the best thing that works with the least amount of side effects.
Yeah. And no problem using medications if they're used based on science, safety, and common sense, none of which is happening in medicine. In medicine, they're used based on profitability.
Mm. Yeah. And that's what I found so refreshing about your approach was you just truly had a heart for figuring out what the actual issues are and helping people.
Well, thank you. Yes.
Okay. So talk to me about long haulers and like, what's the problem here? What's the underlying issue and how do we deal with it?
So first thing we need to understand is that medicine is so far behind where they should be already based on what we know that they haven't even defined what they mean by long haulers. So when they talk about long haulers, they're meaning any persistent symptom from COVID that's lasted more than 2 to 3 months. So if you have loss of smell or taste, the long haulers, no, it's not. It's a persistent loss of smell. If you have shocked lung because you're on a ventilator with pneumonia, they call it long COVID. This is not. So let's define what we're talking about. Right. If you have persistent fatigue, brain fog, and perhaps insomnia with achiness, that's long haulers. That's post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. And we've finished 3 studies that we've completed in the last 2 years looking at post-viral chronic fatigue.
Wow.
And fibromyalgia. One of the treatments is not available in the U.S. The other one is the HRG80 red ginseng I mentioned. That was very effective. And then a third one is similar to the Adaptra. That was also very, very powerfully effective, not plus ribose. I don't know if you carry ribose in your store, but don't use tablets. It's just absurd. Just any powder is fine.
Yeah.
Any of the powdered ribose.
That's an amino acid?
No, it's a sugar, but it's a healthy sugar. The yeast won't ferment it. They can't eat it. And it actually lowers blood sugar, doesn't raise it. So if you have the persistent symptoms after COVID that I mentioned, the treatment is the SHINE protocol. This is post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. This is not something new. This is something we've seen with dozens of infections.
Right.
It's only new to your physician.
Okay. So yeah, you got to make sure you're getting your sleep, the SHINE protocol sleep, figure out hormone balance, figure out what's going on there, whether it's your thyroid or your adrenal
or reproductive hormones.
Then get your infections. If you have underlying infections, figure out how to get to the root of those.
What you'll see is that the COVID triggers other infections. For example, there's one nicely done study showed that people get reactivation of their Epstein-Barr virus during acute COVID.
Right.
So you need to look for other infections that do jailbreaks because of the COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense because your immune system's been tapped out, and so deal with those. And then nutrition, get out the processed sugar, the processed flour, stay away from that. Eat some real food. If it grows on a plant, yes. If it's made in a plant, no.
I like that. Can I use it?
Yes, you can.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and our exercise.
As able. Because if you do too much exercise, you can be bedridden. It's called post-exertional malaise. So don't push, but if you don't do any because you're afraid of that post-exertional malaise, they're going to decondition, which is not good. So walk as much as you comfortably can where you feel good, tired after, and better the next day, even if that's only 200 steps a day. I mean, whatever you can do. And then after 8 to 10 weeks on the SHINE protocol, your energy production will be skyrocketing, and then you'll be able to condition instead of crashing.
Right. That's a really good point about just taking it slow with that kind of stuff. And that's with everything. You got to listen to your body, take one little step at a time. And also just getting outside and walking in fresh air, sunshine. It's going to up your vitamin D levels. You're going to up your oxygen levels. And, Linda Clayville, one of the owners and founders of the store, Nature's Pantry, she came up with an acronym years ago called Wholeness. And it's water, healthy habits, outside air, love, exercise, and elimination, nutrition, endorphins, sunshine, and sleep.
And Maggie, you can add another S at the end of that for sex, and you've got a game winner. And wonderful. Give her my kudos. That's beautifully put together. And it's funny, we in medicine, I remember when I was a kid, and I was probably like 6, and my mom took me to the Museum of Natural History, and they had a skull, and there's a hole in the skull, and they said, well, this is where the old Aztecs cut holes in the skull in sick people to let out the evil spirits, And I looked at my mommy and tugged on her dress and, Mommy, were they crazy? And she said, yes, they are. And I can picture 100 years from now, one of my great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren going in to the Museum of Ancient Medical History, and they'll say, the first exhibit will say, well, the AMA recommends smoking cigarettes. And then the next exhibit will be, don't breastfeed. Only heathen crazy people do that. And then the third exhibit will be, say, avoid sunshine. And I can see my little great-great-great-grandchild looking up at his mommy and tugging on her dress and saying, Mommy, were they crazy? And she'd go, yes, dear.
Oh, that's hilarious. So have you heard of anything? So a couple things I've been hearing with people with effects after COVID is losing hair. I have heard of a few people having success with Terry Naturally's Hair Renew product. Again, like the multivitamin, there's another thing, right? So go ahead.
Well, it's funny because I thought, you don't, as a doctor, talking about hair growth products and weight loss things, you feel like a quack. And I thought, I'm never going to talk about any of that stuff. The Hair Renew works really well for people with thinning hair, or, they just want more luster, and people love it. Give it to 2 months, 2-3 months. But here's the thing. When you have the hair loss from a severe stress like COVID, that's called telogen effluvium. It causes your hair follicles to cycle all at the same time. So about a couple months later, the hair falls out in clumps, and then it grows back after about 9 to 12 months and starts growing again. So a big part of that is just giving it the time to go through that cycling. But again, the multivitamin, the Hair Renew, making sure your iron levels are optimal. These are the keys.
And then how about smell and taste? Have you dealt with that at all? Is zinc have to do with that much, or what else? What other factors?
Zinc and vitamin A are critical, but I would be careful because too much vitamin A can cause birth defects in a woman.
If you're pregnant.
If she gets pregnant. Yeah, you take over 8,000 units of vitamin A a day, it will cause birth defects in women. Now, that's why I like the ViraPro. It'll give you just the right amount in the right form, because the beta carotene doesn't do it. It's the retinol, like the fish oil form. So the clinical essentials in the ViraPro, very good for that as well, because low zinc will cause loss of taste and smell. And COVID causes low zinc. And again, zinc deficiency is a major player. But again, what the industry did is they attacked anything that was cheap. And that included zinc.
Right.
Anything that was a cheap competition to COVID, the misinformation boggled the mind. So they did a study out of Cleveland Clinic, a surgeon who looked at zinc levels were no different. And people, they gave zinc and then they gave a placebo and they said, well, they didn't do any better. But in the zinc group, they put 4 times as many people with diabetes. This is a randomized study. The only way that could happen is, the moon could fall down to the sky, or you could have 4 times as many people. The odds are about this. It's nuts. I don't want to say fraud. And I emailed the guy who was a study guy, and he didn't write back with it. They did studies that were downright fraudulent and published them. Anything that protected the drug company profits. I have nothing against pharmaceutical industry. They're nice people.
Right.
But anyway, yes. The short answer, yes, zinc and vitamin A are critical for taste and smell. But it's not by itself enough to make it come back. I think having it is preventive, but I've not seen it cause it to come back any quicker. Okay. It usually will return on its own over time.
Smell kits. Have you heard of people using like smell kits, like essential oils, and we've heard of a few people doing that and some people having success. Like if you have a really potent smell, like taking like oregano or, garlic or peppermint, or have a like clove or a variety of essential oils that you just kind of smell. And also I've heard of people using like cayenne pepper, taking that, or,
I go with the first group.
Yeah. So
it'd be nice to your nose. Just that it can't smell it doesn't mean it won't burn.
Yeah, don't snort cayenne. Definitely don't snort cayenne. So have you heard about a few other things, just for my audience sake, that I've heard of people having success with? There's a product called Natural Factors Regenilife that helps with the mitochondrial energy, ATP energy production. So I don't know how the mitochondria gets kind of hammered in the process of having COVID, but apparently that product has helped people kind of bounce back from that.
Yeah, viral infections in general can tend to suppress the mitochondria. And the things we talked about in the SHINE protocol in general help them to recover. That's a big part of what it's doing.
Chaga mushrooms, have you heard of those?
And the chaga mushrooms, the mushrooms in general, can be very good for immune function. But you could probably give a more educated discussion on those than I can. Let me add two quick things. Please. So for those of you who have lung disease, brain disease, heart disease, any of those kind of things persisting from the COVID, it's good to understand that the COVID causes both inflammation, because your immune system, when in severe cases, was not able to get ahead of the virus. So it throws a Hail Mary. That's what the cytokine storm is. Throws everything at it. And our bodies are innocent bystanders. The immune system is attacking everything on the field, including ourselves. And then it does free radical injury. You've heard of antioxidants. This is oxidative injury. So what's critical is you want to turn off the oxidative stress and the inflammation. What I will give in people who have symptoms that are persisting, I will use the Curamed. The Curamed is the only form of curcumin I will use. It would take 350 turmeric pills to get what the equivalent effect of one Curamed. And it would take 7 pure curcumin pills to get the same effect.
Is that Terry Naturally Curamed clinical OPC? Just to be Curamed.
I just do the Curamed. The 750s. And I'll give the 1 twice a day or even 2 twice a day for 6 to 8 weeks. Shut down that inflammatory excess response, and I will give clinical glutathione, which turns off the oxidative stress. That is the form of glutathione I like. So that combination in general, for those of you who had heart disease, where you're finding shortness of breath and the rest, first of all, most of the shortness of breath is not coming from heart and lung disease in the COVID. It's coming from vagal nerve inflammation causing the diaphragms, those are the muscles for breathing, to be sluggish. Your body's getting plenty of oxygen, but it feels a little breathless. You can get a finger clip, the pulse oximeter. They're little clips you put on the finger. Yep. That'll tell the percent oxygen. They're $25. And if you're over 95% oxygen and you're having shortness of breath, especially if it's going up with exercise, not down, it's not coming from your heart and lungs. It's just coming from a benign thing, so don't worry about it. But if you do have heart damage from it, get my Cures A to Z phone app. Look up heart disease. It will have a recipe: ribose, acetylcarnitine, magnesium, B vitamins, and it'll go down the list. CoQ10 would dramatically increase cardiac function. Okay. It can give it 6 weeks, and it can turn your life around. For those with shock lung, again, shock lung is not unique to COVID. You'll see it with numerous infections. Historically, for these infections, the shock lung, the lungs tend to heal themselves a good bit over 2 years on their own. I would use the Curamed and the clinical glutathione also, but just know that that tends to heal itself. And if you have the brain fog, that's probably not from the brain inflammation. The SHINE protocol helps the brain fog. The HRG80 red ginseng help cognitive function a lot in our study. But holistic doctors can give you something called low-dose naltrexone, or LDN. Go to most any holistic doctor that can prescribe. It's made by compounding pharmacies. It takes 10 weeks. It may mess with sleep a little bit in the beginning, but otherwise very, very safe. It turns off the inflammation of the brain, and also for people with head injuries.
How can my audience get in touch with you, doctor, if do they have to be in Hawaii?
No, I'm not. I'm going to be retiring from patient care. I turned 70 last month, or April anyway. So I decided I'm going to retire from patient care this Thanksgiving. So, I mean, I'm still having people coming in by phone for new patient appointments. Right. They're 3-hour consultation to get a good start on their fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. Right. But for general health questions, as long as they're not super long, I'm not going to handle cases by email for people. Right. But if people have short health questions, or if you want information on how to get started on recovering from CFS and fibromyalgia, you can email me at fatigue, FATIGUE, DOC, like doctor, fatiguedoc@gmail.com, and just ask for the free treatment tools or information for CFS and fibromyalgia. It'll talk about orthostatic intolerance, which is when you stand up, the blood rushes to your legs and stays there. Main cause of fatigue in post-COVID is that it's called autonomic dysfunction, blah, blah, blah. Basically, the blood goes to your legs and stays there. And how to reverse that, and how to do a quick 10-minute screen at home that'll tell you if you have it, and then how to make it go away, using a mix of natural and prescription options. So you can ask for the free tools, treatment tools, and happy to to email those to you. Great.
Yeah, so that's fatiguedoc@gmail.com. And then also, again, Dr. Teitelbaum has several books. His most current and best-selling is Fatigued to Fantastic. Great book. I'm reading that right now. His website is vitality101.com. And again, there's an app, Cures A to Z. Great app. I can't wait to use that more. And I just can't thank you enough, doctor, for taking time to share your wealth of wisdom and experience with me and my audience. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you do.
Well, it's a joy. Again, people ask, well, you're sacrificing so much. I mean, over 3/4 of the time I spend probably is uncompensated, just teaching and helping people. And, people say, wow, what a sacrifice. And it is no sacrifice at all. It is the most fun thing in the world, teaching people how to get their life back. And here's the thing, if I teach you how to get your life back so you can go back to doing what made you sick in the first place that you hate, I have done nothing for you. As you start feeling better, use your energy for things that you love. What's your passion? What gives you joy? Because at the end of the day, when our time in this planet is done and we move on, we're not going to look back at how much money we had in the bank and the rest. We're going to look at how much joy we had, how much joy we gave, how much love we gave. We're going to look back at those things that defined who we are.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's in the giving, and not because, well, I'm going to be a nice guy, but because for the sheer joy of it. That will be the wealth that we'll take with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. And, it's we all want to live to the fullest potential we have. And we can't do that if we're feeling bad and have low energy. And so the tools and the solutions that you have for people are just tremendous. Thank you, doctor, so much for joining me today. God bless you.
God bless all of you as well. Thank you, guys. Be well.
Thanks for joining me, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.